jobs for life. I probably should get one because I keep changing jobs as I listen to that. Really? Did I do all those things? I came to Alaska for a year in 1971. And I just keep forgetting which year it's supposed to be. So here it is already 42 years. Today is a very, very special day. It's Jennifer's birthday. So please wish Jennifer a happy birthday. And we were talking about birthdays and dates, and when you're young, you can't wait to be 13 to be a teenager, and then you can't wait to be 14 or 15 to get your learner's permit, and then you can't wait to be 16 to drive, and you can't wait to be 18 or 21, depending upon which state you lived in at the time. After 21, there's not much left to look for. And Jennifer said, well, when you're 25, you get to rent a car without paying all that cash up front. So she's past the last threshold of looking forward to turning older. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you a little bit about Pick, Click, Give and about the Alaska 211 program, a couple of programs that we've been involved with at United Way for a number of years. And you've heard the ads. If you give and your neighbor does, and another, it will add up quickly. With one donation at a time, we can make good things happen all over Alaska. When you make a donation from your PFD through Pick, Click, Give, you can make an impact by sharing just a little with a cause you care about. Strengthen the arts, invest in education, shelter a homeless pet, lend a hand, or even make a wish come true when you give to one of Alaska's nonprofits. The success of Pick, Click, Give grows every year. When you go online to apply for your dividend, you will see the Pick, Click, Give option. Click that and follow the instructions to make your donation. Organizations across Alaska are part of the program this year. You're likely to find one you are already supporting, and you can use Pick, Click, Give to make additional gifts. Or you may find a new nonprofit whose cause is important to you, and you can donate to that organization. You may give all or part of your dividend, whatever is appropriate for you and your family. We simply encourage you to consider a gift. A 2006 report on charitable giving conducted by Boston College and the Council of Churches indicated that people in Alaska who make more than $200,000 per year gave thousands less than the national average of those similarly situated and substantially less than those in any other state. Many felt when that report came out that perhaps the state's entitlement culture may be influencing negatively philanthropic giving. It had been so easy for nonprofits to get funding in Alaska from the state, federal government, that many followed that venue or an avenue instead of doing the hard work of raising money in traditional manner. States nonprofits were turning to former U.S. Senator Ted Stevens, who created the Denali Commission to funnel federal money to Alaska projects, and of course state oil revenues for support of programs and projects. Needless to say, Alaska's charitable giving had room to grow. Unfortunately, many in Alaska are very giving, but there really is no place on your tax forms to indicate where you voluntarily went out and subsistence harvested fish or game to give to elders in the community. Or if you're a whaler on the North Slope, there's no line item for I caught a whale and shared it with my community members. So when these reports speak about giving or the perceived lack thereof, it's in the traditional sense of dollars and cents, not in those things which are very traditional, where someone may duck hunt or go fishing or deer hunting and share that with elders or others in the state. So it's difficult to explain to the IRS where to put a whale if you're a harvester of whales in Alaska or in Barrow. Early discussions by the Rasmussen Foundation, a charitable organization which makes $25 million in grants available each year to Alaska organizations, and the Foraker Group led to an attempt to increase private philanthropy in Alaska by giving people the option of donating a portion of their permanent fund dividend to their favorite charity. Alaskans who make $100,000 or more rank among the lowest in the nation as far as percentage of income donated to charity. Again, this refers to the cash piece of that puzzle. And going back to philanthropy, when you make a contribution to most of the sports teams or to some of those kinds of activities, they aren't philanthropic gifts, so it doesn't show up in a traditional giving capture of the Internal Revenue Service data. The Rasmussen Foundation pledged to fully fund the administration costs of the program for the first 3 years, creating a zero fiscal impact on the state in those crucial beginning years. Diane Kaplan, president of the Rasmussen Foundation, said upon passage of the legislation, "We are really hopeful that this can be a vehicle to not just get charities some short-term cash, but to really grow philanthropy in the state in an unprecedented way." And certainly the Rasmussen family has followed through with their philanthropic gifts and have been very influential in this state in their giving. In May of 2008, the Alaska Legislature passed House Bill 166 that sets up the PFD Charitable Contributions Program, or Pick, Click, Give. The law allows Alaskans filing for their PFD online to donate all or part of their dividend to the campuses of the University of Alaska, community foundations, eligible charitable and educational organizations. After a 3-year pilot project, Pick, Click, Give is now a permanent part of the PFD program. Pick, Click, Give provides a reliable way for Alaskans to support eligible nonprofit organizations. The program goal is to increase charitable giving, along with increase the number of new donors to nonprofit organizations. The program provides an additional way for donors to support organizations they care about and are passionate about supporting. It is a safe and secure way to give in areas you haven't considered before and to provide additional support to organizations you do care about. You join others to become an important force in bettering our communities and our state. Increasing charitable giving is the most effective way to create long-term sustainability for Alaska's nonprofits so they're able to carry out their missions in their communities. Pick, Click, Give provides a safe and secure way for Alaskans to make a contribution and help build sustainable organizations. As I was doing research on Pick, Click, Give and kind of revisiting the history, Senate Bill 205 was introduced in April of 2003, and I pulled up the bill and looked at it, and it had, I think, 6 lines in the body of the legislation. And by the time you got through HB 496 and then on to HB 166, it had grown to about 8 pages. But the early concerns were, how do we qualify people? How do we qualify organizations? Who's eligible? How do we prevent anybody from starting a nonprofit, becoming a 501c3, and just creating chaos in the system? So there was a lot of discussion in the legislature, a lot of work, a lot of debate to create the final piece of legislation that was adopted in 2008. In May 2008, they passed the bill, and with that, we're on to your opportunities to give. In those early discussions, there was much debate over the passage and how best to vet those 7,000 nonprofit organizations in Alaska and to ensure that the contributions got to legitimate, qualified nonprofits. United Way of Anchorage was the lead organization in helping to develop the process and establish some of the early standards. Much credit for the heavy lifting on the package of legislation should be given to our own Clark Greening. He was at the time chair of the 4-Acre Board of Governance. 4-Acre has a board of governance and an operations board, and the Board of Governors supported the program, were very actively involved, and Clark, in his position as lobbyist and as chair of the 4-Acre Board, did a lot of work on the Hill. There were many who worked on it, but Clark was certainly very, very heavily involved in it. So those criteria, how do organizations qualify to be eligible? Nonprofit is designated as a 501c3 educational or charitable organization on the date of application and for the 2 calendar years that immediately precede the year the application is filed. So you can't just show up as a nonprofit and start applying and being a part of the process. You have to have been in the state, doing your work, and be a part of the community before you are recognized and qualified. Unless federally exempt, it has a current Internal Revenue Service Form 990 on file, or if the IRS has generated a filing extension for the current year, has on file that form for the immediate preceding year. The organization is directed by a voluntary board of directors or local advisory board, a majority of whom are residents of the state of Alaska. It provides services in Alaska during the 2 calendar years that immediately precede the year the application is filed, and it receives at least $100,000 or 5% of its total annual receipts, whichever is less, from contributions. So for this year, those organizations who are listed as eligible, they had to file and be accepted to be a part of the program this year, last February. So we're just starting the process coming up for nonprofits who want to be a part of the Pick, Click, Give program to start filling out their paperwork here in the next 30 days or so. So if you know nonprofits that would like to get involved, they need to pay attention to the announcements and the filing requirements, and those will be posted here in the next 30 days or so. So Pick, Click, Give has many, many sponsors now that are a part of the process, and we are grateful to the organizations that have invested time and financial resources into making Pick, Click, Give a reality. It's taken several years and a lot of creative energy to get to this point. With our sponsors' support, we are proud to say that 100% of the dollars Alaskans give through Pick, Click, Give go directly to the organizations they select. The Pick, Click, Give statewide outreach campaign is made possible through financial support from the Alaska Children's Trust, the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority, the Atwood Foundation, BP Alaska, ConocoPhillips Alaska, ExxonMobil, Matsu Health Foundation, Northrim Bank, Providence Health and Services Alaska, the Rasmussen Foundation, Wells Fargo, Flint Hill Resources, Doyon Limited, Arctic Slope Regional Corporation. So a wide variety of companies and organizations supporting it. Additionally, generous amounts of in-kind support from the Alaska Aces, the Alaska Club, the Alaska Public Radio Network, Coast Alaska and Alaska One, the Nerland Agency, Regal Entertainment Group, a subsidiary of Siri, Cook Inlet Region Incorporated, and MSI Communications. Additionally, a number of companies generously match their employee gifts to Pick, Click, Give. Those companies are BP, ConocoPhillips, the Rasmussen Foundation, the Foraker Group, Wells Fargo, and Chugach, Alaska. So for every dollar that their employees contribute, those companies match their contributions to those organizations. So as the program started in 2009, donors, 5,173 donors contributed $545,000. That has now grown to, this past year, 2012, 23,000 plus donors giving over $2.2 million to those contributing to those nonprofits that were qualified. In 2010, up from 2009, the number of donors increased by 84%, and they're giving an additional 70%. In 2011, donors, those giving, increased by 96%, and donations increased by 69%. In 2012, donors increased by 24%, and donations increased by 40%. So we've gone from 545,000 in 2009 to over 2.2 million this past year. Hopefully that'll continue to see an increase. More than 23,000 Alaskans pledged 37,000 gifts totaling more than 2.2 million through the Pick, Click, Give program in 2012. Unfortunately, that's only about 4% of all those eligible to receive a PFD. Or in, here in the Southeast, we have a number of organizations, and Alaskans have more options than ever for sharing their 2013 permanent fund dividend. When the PFD filing period opened on January 1, Alaskans have the ability to use Pick, Click, Give to donate a portion of their dividend with a record 471 Alaska nonprofits. In 8 communities across Southeast, there are 89 organizations participating in the program. And for all you accountants in the room, the number on the screen equals 103. Many of those organizations here in Southeast serve a number of communities. So, for instance, SAIL, Big Brothers Big Sisters, have presence in 4 communities each, so that would be 8 of that number. There are many types of organizations or causes. You can go on the website, you can search for organizations by name, you can search for them by community, you can search for them by type of cause. And this is the list of the causes that classify each of the nonprofits. Many great causes and many great organizations are eligible to receive donations via the process. For additional information on the program, I encourage you to visit the Pick, Click, Give website at pickclickgive.org. Well, that gets hard to say. Pick, click, give. Anyway, I encourage you to go take a look at the website, look at the number of nonprofits that are on there, and if you see a nonprofit that you're involved with that's not on there, I encourage you to have them take a look at seeing if they meet the qualifications and if they're eligible to go through the process. It's not onerous, but it is thorough. And with that, I'd like to shift gears now and move on to our Alaska 211 program and share with you information about a great program run by United Ways from across Alaska. And those United Ways are the United Way of Anchorage, the United Way of Mat-Su, Kenai Peninsula United Way, the United Way of Tanana Valley, Valdez, and of course here in Southeast Alaska. Well, what is Alaska 211? You've heard of 411, you've heard of 511 for highway information, you've heard of 911 for emergency information. 211 is information for social service agencies and providers. It's a free, confidential referral system for health and human services for the state of Alaska. By dialing 211, you are connected to a call center located in Anchorage, and an information and referral specialist can assist you in locating resources closest to you for things like food, child care, health care, mental health resources, substance abuse, rent, and utility assistance. Think of it as an employee assistance program for everyone in the state of Alaska. Since launching in 2007, Alaska 211 has fielded over 75,000 calls. The system is operated by United Way of Anchorage and housed in the Emergency Operations Center for the Municipality of Anchorage. Professional standards for the service and certification for all staff is through the Alliance for Information and Referral Services, AIRS, a national organization that sets performance standards and protocols for all 211 systems across the nation. The 211 system has 2 components. One, the call center, and of course the website. Well, let's talk first about the capacity of the call center. Phone system is likened to those used by law enforcement, with the ability to make warm transfers to crisis lines and other providers if the caller is unable to make that next call. Software has multiple components for recording caller information, building resource database, and call data retrieval. It is complex and one of 4 different software programs approved for 211 systems by AIRS. Call center is located in the Emergency Operations Center for the Municipality of Anchorage, and 211 plays an active role in disaster response, which we'll cover here in a little bit. We are the only 211 system in the nation co-located in an Emergency Operations Center. Call center is open regular business hours on weekdays. We monitor numbers of after-hours calls to track capacity of after-hour expansion. The volume for the after-hour calls so far has not justified paying for that expansion of service. After-hours system allows callers to leave messages, and we can leave seasonal information like cold weather shelter contact numbers in the recording to direct people in an emergency. So what kind of call types do we receive? Who is calling 211? 80% of the calls are for referrals. Help, I need food. Child care. Need plans for where do I take my elderly parents for daycare or for housing when it's no longer possible for them to continue to live in my home. For detox, transportation to medical appointments. 211 received 502 calls from Southeast Alaska in 2011, and from January to June of 2012 had over 272 calls. As you go through the 211 system, I encourage you to take a look at it, and if you see again voids, agencies that should be listed but aren't listed, we'd certainly like to know who they are so that we can go out and try to encourage them to participate. We believe that there are more agencies out there that need to be included, but it's a voluntary program. No one has to be in the system, but if they want to be there, we'd be glad to help them get registered and get on the program. Sometimes it's easier to call 211 than 911. We've all heard the stories about people calling to complain about the service at a restaurant or a hamburger not meeting their expectations, and the 911 system is being virtually overloaded with non-emergency calls. So 211 is one way to help divert some of that phone traffic from 911 and hopefully provide some additional resource for folks in our communities. And part of our challenge is to make sure people know that the 211 system is there and to make sure that they have access to it when they need to know what kind of resources are out there to help them. We don't get a lot of crisis calls, but are able to respond if we do indeed get those type of calls. All of the staff are certified in mental health first aid. The main crisis line partner is the Care Line in Fairbanks, so if the caller is in need of immediate intervention, they can either transfer them to the Care Line or they can transfer them right straight to the appropriate enforcement agency. So it's a very integrated system. We're always asked what are the most requested referrals, and food is the number one referral statewide. In a land of plenty, it's sad that we have people that find themselves in need of food. Housing assistance, including rental and rent deposit assistance, are also top requests and top unmet needs, as those funds are usually depleted quickly. Same is true for utility pay assistance. We field many calls at our agency, at other agencies in the community, with people who have come to Alaska to chase their dream. The job didn't pan out, the job's not what they thought, the weather's not what they thought, they are now here, they have no way to get home, they've got 6 kids, the list goes on, and so trying to help direct people to resources can be a challenge, but it's one that our agencies step to the plate daily to help those situations out. 211 does play a role in disaster response and drills with the municipal emergency operation as well as the state emergency responders. The role does not change. It is still information and referral, but our points of referral changes based upon the information from the public information officer assigned to that particular event. Ingress and egress routes in case of evacuations, where to find shelter or water, pharmacy supplies, food, are constantly updated continuously as conditions change. 211 will become the advertised number to connect for information during those emergencies. Because all 211 information is web-based and we do use common language to index our services, 211 systems nationally can support each other. So an example, Hurricane Ike, the 211 center had to evacuate, 211 center in Texas had to evacuate, and they were able to forward their call right straight to the call center in San Diego. The operators in San Diego 211 system were able to answer the phone, were able to pull up the information on their web pages, and were able to answer calls from Texas and provide resources just as if they were sitting there in Texas. So having the system in Anchorage, having the information for the whole state in their database, the caller doesn't know that they're not sitting down the street. The resource database is robust, and we work to keep it as current as possible. Service providers have to give us permission to be included in the database, and we can only offer resources we know about. So if you know or see organizations or agencies that ought to be listed in the system, please let us know. We'd love to get them in. Agencies that receive grants from the state of Alaska, the Alaska Mental Health Trust, the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, United Way's, and many of the healthcare foundations have a requirement that their recipients list their programs in the 211 system. We have over 800 agencies currently representing 2,600 different sites and programs listed in the database. All 211s use the same taxonomy, and we try to approach indexing word by keyword in common language, what a consumer might use to look for a service. We're required to update our information at least annually, and the software program that we use has the ability to send an email broadcast to all of the listings in the database requesting that they review and update their information contained in the database. Service providers can update information at any time, but we seek to make contact with them at least once a year so that we're at least reaching out, trying to make sure the information is current, so when people call, we're not giving out bad information, bad phone numbers, bad addresses. And this is our home page on the website. Clicking Help starts here, gets you to the search page. You're required to enter a zip code in order to search so that we can locate resources closest to you. And if you get on the website and you're looking for something, you don't find what you're looking for, we encourage you to call the 211 number. They'd be glad to help direct you, help additional shortcut clues while you're navigating the site. If you have staff that you'd like to make fluent in the 211 system, we offer staff trainings telephonically, so the service center is willing to help train people and help make those resources readily available. The Alaska 211 search, you can search by category for food or housing, healthcare, or by keyword, which is most like Google. But remember, this is not a search engine, you're searching a database, so spelling does count. It's not intuitive. You can search by the name of an agency or program. Through the advanced search tool, you can also get a listing of all the agencies listed for specific boroughs or communities. And finally, the website automatically record the top 20 categories searched for, and you can retrieve information by clicking on those as well. Again, if you need help trying to find something, feel free to call the 211. They'd love to talk to you. And here's some data from the types of searches. This is through 2011 in the 4 years, 75,000 odd key category searches, 41,000 keyword searches, and 8,000 agency searches by name. A total of 106,000 visits so far through 2011, and they're in the process of updating the 2012 numbers, so we'll get those here in the next month or so. 211 is also a partner in other community initiatives. Our call data information has been useful for community planners, looking at long-term health and human service community network, for summer food programs listed on the 211 system. We track availability and activation of community cold weather shelters and include information on our after-hours messaging system to let people know where to turn when the system is not immediately available via telephone. Other community programs like holiday food programs, community adopt-a-family programs, school supply programs, health fairs, tax preparation sites are tracked as well. That's a little bit about the Alaska 211, who we are and how it works. The system is there, but it's only as good as the information that people provide to us. So if you take a few minutes to take a look at the system, take a look at the website. If you know of an organization that ought to be listed, we'd encourage you to let us know or have them give us a call. The paperwork to initiate an application is right there online, and we'd be glad to help them walk through it and to get them included. Encourage you to visit the site, take a look at it. One of the things that we encourage employers particularly to consider perhaps using this. Many of us as employers have over the years had an employee who comes to work and goes, I really have a problem. And as an employer, you want to help, but you want to be very careful about how you offer that help. And 211 sometimes can be a resource for you to say, I don't have the resources to help you individually, but here is a resource to help you, whether it's finding daycare, whether it's finding assistance for parents, for detox problems, any number of issues that as employers you run into. So the 211 program can sort of be a mini employee assistance program and help you in those situations where you're asked for help, but you're perhaps not prepared to be that resource. Again, encourage you to consider Pick, Click, Give and to support United Way and our 35 partner agencies. You know, the ad talks a little bit about, or talks about a little becomes a lot when everybody participates. When I first started with United Way in July of 2011, one of the first pieces of mail that came to my desk was Brian's great community economic development tool. So I was kind of thumbing through that and, oh cool, look at that, almost 18,000 jobs right here in Juneau. If I could convince every one of those people to give me $1 a week for 52 weeks, I'd have $936,000 to put to the good of the order. And then I flipped a couple more pages and there's 36,000 jobs roughly in all of Southeast Alaska. And again, if I could convince all of them to give just $1 a week, we'd have $1.8 million to help support our nonprofit organizations across Southeast. Pick, Click, Give is a great way for you to contribute, support your favorite nonprofit organizations, designate a contribution from your permanent fund dividend. Amount is deducted and sent right straight to the designating agency. There are thousands of nonprofits to choose from. There are 471 currently authorized through the Pick, Click, Give program. And we appreciate the support of Pick, Click, Give, of Alaska 211, and thank you for your time here today. I would point out that there's a flyer on the table. Pick, Click, Give representatives from Anchorage will be here in Juneau Thursday, January 31st. We'll have a little gathering at our office, so if you know of agencies that may be interested in learning a little bit more about 211, we'd certainly encourage you to invite them to participate, to encourage them to stop by. If you want materials, cards to hand out or place in your place of employment, let us know. We'd be glad to drop some by. And with that, I'd say if you have questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.